probably one moment in my life that I haven't spoken to him enough about it. My dad, when I was 18 and I was supposed to go down to see the uni that I was going to be going to and look at doing some things with rugby and this scholarship, the surf was really good this day. And I surfed all morning, and being the 18-year-old self that I was, I got out of the surf, ran home, said to Dad, you know what, this whole rugby Sydney uni thing, I don't think it's for me. I can literally remember saying that, thinking that, because the surf was pumping. And I thought, I'll just put that off for today and keep surfing. And my dad showed me some really good tough love and said, put your board down, get in the car.
Okay, so we're here with Luke Sullivan. How are you, man?
Great. Thanks for having me. Pumped to be here, guys. Beautiful space.
Oh, man, how lucky are we? We've just had some big swell on the east coast of Australia, and 12, 15 foot, I reckon. And there I was down in Terrigal taking some photos, and I zoomed in on a couple, and of course there's Luke hocking into some pits, some big slabs in some very dirty water, and I shouldn't have been as surprised as I was, but I was. And I want to hear how that was.
It's been a great week, yeah. The waves have been really good. Being a dad of 3 under the age of 5 and pretty busy with a number of things, it's not often I really give myself the luxury to go for long surfs, but when the swell's up, I've got a very accommodating wife. And yeah, I definitely made the most of it over the last week. I've had some amazing waves. Not often we get to surf the bay at Terrigal like we have been able to. The muddy, the ordinary coloured water hasn't been helpful, but the swell has been really good, and it's very, very addictive to be just wanting to tap into and chase that, I guess, that adrenaline and that excitement of trying to surf a really big wave and pushing yourself in a number of different ways, which is definitely what we're about. We ask other people to do that on a daily basis, so it's definitely one thing. My wife and my brother Shaun and I, we ask that of people, so we definitely push ourselves into all of those avenues as well. So surfing big waves has definitely become something I've become more and more involved and got more of a love for as I've got older, as you stated before the show, as I'm quite old.
Let's not talk. Let's skip that. Have you always been a big wave lover? Have you always been comfortable?
No, not at all. So played a lot of sport growing up, loved my rugby, loved surfing and all that sort of things. But to be honest, while I was in school, I had a lot of mates that surf really well, and quite often when they'd ring me and I knew the surf was big, I was hesitant to pick up. I almost didn't want to kind of know about it because I didn't want to have to feel the pressure to do that. And it's just totally flipped on its head over the last 10 years. I guess as we've got more, I guess just grown as a person, but become more and more into pushing ourselves both physically and mentally. And then with the whole breath program that we run with our business, it's that in itself, once you gain some really valuable knowledge and skills and confidence in your breath hold and in your ability under the water, that opens up a whole new realm of what waves are possible and what waves aren't. And so it's been really exciting. And then being around some really good guys, I've been fortunate over the last 5 to 10 years probably, I would say, to have surfed a lot out Furries and a few places that get some good swell with some incredibly good surfers and guys that are much more advanced in the surfing world than I am, but just to be able to learn from them and push myself into different situations, it's been great. It's very, very addictive, as I said.
And it was awesome too to see your brother, who you're in business with, and you obviously spend a lot of time with and have so much in common, and that's absolutely brilliant. I want to dive into that a little bit later because got a couple of photos of him and he was going some bombs. So I want to start off from the earlier years with you, because you've built a business heavily around putting yourself in chaotic situations and teaching some incredible athletes and being surrounded by the footy scene, the rugby scene, traveling the world, and really a lot of very adventurous, action-packed things, which I'm sure is incredible. Where did that start for you? Has that been, you sound like you're very adventurous from sort of the get-go.
Yeah, and now I'm getting paid back with my 3-year-old son, who's very adventurous / dangerous. My mum laughs because she says I'm just getting payback, but no. Always enjoyed getting in the mud and getting outside. Like, you know, I was never into Nintendos and games and all that sort of stuff. So we had an incredibly fortunate upbringing, as in a modest upbringing, but fortunate with the amount of love we were shown and the. We grew up on a couple of acres in Matcham. We had a creek and bush and a pool and just footy posts in our backyard. We just were kind of outside from sun up till sundown, and just kind of relished that as a kid. Absolutely loved everything about that and being outside. And I guess that's transferred across to, as I've went in with university, sort of rugby and my PDHPE degree, and then teaching, my passion for taking people out, teaching them skills in things that I'm really passionate about, and kind of empowering them to be able to then reach their own potential. I just think there's so many people like I was in school, not wanting to pick up that phone call because I knew my friends were going to surf big waves. There's so many people doing that in life in so many different areas. So for me, one of the biggest buzz and kicks I get out of all the different people that we get to work with, and we do work with a real array of people, is helping people unlock that potential that they have to be able to access so much more than they really do give themselves credit for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because when I come through the health and fitness space at the start, you used to think that there was only a handful of ways to put yourself outside your comfort zone, but then had the opportunity to be able to do a breath work with yourself, some of the DMR guys a few years back, and then we did the abseiling a couple of months back. But it's really been cool to see with the breath work and whatnot. There's actually so many different ways to build teamwork and be outside your comfort zone rather than having to be in the hustle and the bustle in the gym and getting your heart rate up as high as you can and how long you can stay in the fight. That's actually common ground for a lot of people. It's being out in the ocean or being on that cliff face or being, in these environments that actually put you outside that comfort zone.
For sure. And I think with a lot of people, whether it's the ocean, whether it's on a cliff, whether it's in the bush in the dark, whether it's being vulnerable and talking in front of people, there's somewhere with all of those things that someone will feel uncomfortable. And for some people it's the ocean or it's the cliff, and it's different for different people. But giving them some breath and mindset skills and confidence by being surrounded by a team of people. And when I say a team, that can be a group of friends, your family, your local rugby team, or whatever it is. Having that support is instrumental in people being able to reach their peak as well. And it's a cool thing to see people just achieve so much more than they thought, because people do really put a block on things.
Oh, it's fascinating, man. Like me being just a DMR, which is a group training facility, and seeing just in that environment when you're surrounded by 8 people doing the same thing as you, going through the same pain. You're doing a plank for a minute, then another minute, and then someone doesn't get up straight away. So Jared's a dick and goes another minute, and you think you're already completely cooked. Yes. And then it's like, you just get through it. Like it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah. Just that, how far you really can push yourself. And I think I heard it, David Goggins say, when you think you're done, you're only 30% done. And that's fascinating. It's very, very fascinating. So with you growing up, when did the rugby scene really kick in for you? When did you really want to pursue that?
Oh, so I loved my rugby for all my younger years, from the age of about 10 all the way through. And yeah, played a lot of local rugby, played some rugby, a couple of seasons in Gordon and Sydney, learned a lot there, and was fortunate enough to play 3 seasons travelling around with New South Wales country with the Cockatoos, which was an awesome experience with a whole bunch of country boys that could really drink and have a good time, and that was amazing.
And they're hard as well, aren't they?
Oh, mate, they're amazing people. So that was a really enjoyable, special time in my life. As far as I had no wife and kids and all that going on in those early years. So that was a great chapter. But I definitely was. The whole time I was playing rugby, I was always looking at some of the other guys in our club and things and thinking, I don't want to be that guy that's 40 still playing rugby and body's a wreck and not able to do other things, because I was always when I was at rugby, I was always that guy that surfed, and when I was surfing with my surfing friends, I was always that guy that played rugby. So I was kind of like just bouncing between these, like generally a lot of our surfing mates that I surf with weren't playing other sports. Generally our rugby mates weren't doing as much of the other stuff. So it was cool I enjoyed that. And then since stopping all of that, I've been able to really drive in and tap into a whole lot of other areas that I guess help the outlet too of my energy. Like I have an abundance of energy, and I was never taken to the doctor to get diagnosed, but I probably would have been diagnosed and given some pills if it was this day and age. But I'm glad I wasn't, and mum and dad were amazing in supporting us in channeling that into sport and into being outside and into those things. So yeah, it's definitely held me in good stead with what we do today.
What was you said about looking at guys who are older than you and having that, I guess, realization that that's not where you wanted to be at that age for you. When was it time for you to quit and move on, and what did you move on to?
Good question. I got an injury that put me out of surfing for probably about 2 months. And I can remember just during that time going, nah, this is not on. I really don't want to be off my board for this long ever again, type of thing. And it was also a little bit of a time I was starting to look into and start doing my training into more freedive based things. So I was kind of almost possibly at that swinging point from that competitive rugby scene for a long time to always was drawn to the ocean with nippers at a young age and surfing, but I think I was just getting more and more, and I guess as time's gone on, the ocean in the busy life that I live, and many forms of water now, but the ocean particularly has been something that it's just such a reset, such a nice cleanser for me that between going from one hat to the next, a jump in the ocean or a quick surf or now more in the ice bath as well, it's able to kind of reset and then be as present as I can in that next moment of whatever I'm doing.
You touched on the injury front there. Did it get to the point where you started to second guess yourself and you're fearing more about being injured versus?
No, I kind of just knew. I just went, I'm out. Like in my head, I was like, I've got many other things I want to do, and I've loved my rugby, but I'm done. Yeah. It was really easy for me because I had other things that I wanted to do, other things I was into, more time to surf, more time to delve into the ocean, things that I was doing, and some things I was starting to do more in the mountains as well. So it was, to me, it just kind of fit that transition, really just kind of rolled.
So where did you go professionally from there?
So I was finished uni. I was doing a lot of PDHPE teaching on the Central Coast at Girakool Primary School, and I was running their sort of boys ed behaviour group and coaching a lot of their sporting teams and running a lot of their PE and health sort of things within the primary school. And my boss there actually led me to the Juvenile Justice Centre because he used to be the principal there. And he said, I know where I think you're really going to be best suited. And I ended up doing a little bit of work up in Girakool School within Frank Baxter Juvenile Justice Centre as PDHPE teacher, and then a full-time job came up with the New South Wales Department of Ed, and yeah, that's been an incredible experience and journey working with 16 to 21-year-old young men that have been confined to time in juvenile detention, and all the challenges and things that come with that. But I think as much as that, I've learnt a huge amount about over those years too, about the importance of a really solid team, and how the other guys that you work with or girls that you work with, how important that is to have a really solid united front when working with people with such challenges and, you know, violence and a lot of the issues that come with working with these guys.
Yeah. So what do you work mostly with these guys?
So my role in, as far as my hat that I wear with the Department of Education within Girakool School, is I do a lot of outdoor education programs. So taking students that are on the tail end of their sentence, and they're basically being given, or they've behaved enough to get something called escorted absence, where they're able to leave the facility with a staff member and a youth officer and everything signed off, and take them to do a whole lot of different outdoor education type programs. So a Cert 2 in outdoor recreation, where they can access abseiling, rock climbing, mountain biking, kayaking, learn to surf, all of these, bush navigation, and they get a qualification. But I think more than the qualification that we're able to give them, it's more the life skills that they're learning, how to deal with being under pressure and stress on a cliff, how to work as part of a team after 4 days in the Blue Mountains when you're cold and tired and hungry, how to interact with people of all sorts of ages when you meet them on a track or a mountain bike trail, and all of those skills that are required for a successful day out, week out in the elements and in the environment that we put them in. We do a whole lot of different physical and mental testing and challenging with them for growth, obviously. And it's I work with some credible guys that really assist me in that program being as positive as it is. So that's a big role of mine there. I'm also in a little bit of on the leadership sort of side of things there, coming into more of that as well, and then do like PDHPE and life skills subjects for some of the high risk management unit there. So guys that have been identified as high risk and need a huge amount of attention and security around them to try and get some education and some skills to be able to reintegrate into society. That's the whole idea up there, is to try and equip them with some skills and education and ways of dealing with life to be able to reintegrate into society successfully.
Because too, these guys, I mean, obviously they've misbehaved up to sometimes a really large extent to be in there, and when you trace that back, I mean, a lot of these guys wouldn't have had any kind of family at times, definitely not an environment that is good for them, and following that they've acted out, and so a lot of these guys have got some serious stories, and they're probably incredibly street smart and had to fend for themselves since they were young, and I couldn't imagine some of the stories that these guys have got. How do you build trust? How do you build trust with these guys?
You have to be patient, first of all, and you have to build a rapport and a relationship with them before. So your standard 16, 18-year-old that you may meet around town, if you introduce them, will probably put out their hand straight away, give you eye contact straight away, use your name. These guys won't do that for a reasonable amount of time. There's generally, it just takes that relationship to build, and that can be just in small moments of conversations, obviously just role modeling of positive, interactions. Quite often for us, we might say good morning to Jared, a boy coming up for 3 months before he then starts to even look and half acknowledge you. And then as time goes on, and then you have an actual experience with him where he might access a program that realizes you can really help him in this way. And then they're also, like you say, street smart. They want to know that you've got their best interests, and when really important up there, that if you say, I'm going to track down that, that qualification for you, or link up that phone call for this or that, if you don't follow up on those, it's done straight away. Being really strong to your word like that's very important. And then once that just gradually builds and that rapport gets built, the actual experiences that you have with them, taking them through a number of the different things you do, obviously forges a really tight bond really quickly too, once that kind of goes. And then they become really, really quite tight as time goes on. So it's a very interesting, incredibly interesting, different world that sits at the top of Carryong Hill.
Training?
Can be, dependent on the person. And there can be turnover of staff if you're not the right type of person, for sure. It can be, can obviously lead to, because there's obviously a lot of heavy stories and heavy humans and different things that are going on in there. So it can really hurt people mentally and physically working in that environment. And I think if you're able to leave things out a door, kind of switch off, use outlets in other ways, it's very helpful for yourself to be able to,
I think I was 14 or 15. I played tennis up there for school, and I was a small kid back in school. I mean, I'm not the biggest guy now, but I didn't have a growth spurt until later, and I remember shitting myself going in there. I mean, look, when you go through the security process and
the jail to play tennis.
I played with the guys from but what fascinated me, even though when we played, the bell went, guys were moving in between classrooms and they're shaking the fence and yelling at you, and you don't know how to take it. You just hope to God that no one gets through the fence, because I don't know what's going to happen. And you kind of hear stories and just rumours and stuff. But one thing that fascinated me was the guys I played with were some of the most honest, loyal, down-to-earth people. And I think I asked the question to one of the guards who was there, and they said that it's a privilege for them, for one, but they cherish it. Yeah. So they really take it seriously. And they were incredible players. Yeah. Like, they were really good players. And so...
Did they beat you guys?
I think overall, I won my singles match. I think we lost the doubles match. Yeah. My partner was in year 7, just hadn't developed the strength. Yeah. I think overall, I think we might have tied or lost or something like that. But regardless, I remember the guy that I played, he was just so, like, even when he was down 40 love or whatever, if it was a close
that's not
call,
always the case.
Sure.
Yeah, I could imagine if they're losing, what would go up there.
Well, I could look, and to be honest, that's what I was expecting.
But you're right. It is a privilege. Those types of things, and like the outdoor rec, to access sporting games against the community, they are big deal, big carrots for these guys, and having that to aim for is massive. And they understand that, and that's a big part of them understanding. Positive behaviour gets a positive consequence, as in, do the right thing.
Yeah, I think what I took away from it was that when these guys are put in a position, the right position and the right environment, they are respectful. They are, they have the ability to be really honest and really positive. And these guys were great to play against. And I just think, like, even in a place where I was shitting myself or I didn't know what to expect, you've got a bunch of it completely changed. And look, I understand that it's not always like that. You definitely have you guys and your experiences, but I was lucky enough to have a positive experience, and it kind of puts a lot of impact then on the staff, like for you to have that knowledge and experience and expertise to go, what's going to give these guys, what's going to build the trust, what's going to put them in the best position to be able to move forward and really hone in on those positive qualities that they have, but maybe they were just misunderstood.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times with them, they, unfortunately, like you said, they haven't been surrounded by positive role models a lot, and quite often, you know, the average student detainee we have up there is often unfortunately a product of, like all of us, product of the environment. So mum may be in jail, dad can be in gangs and drugs, and family are mixed up with whole lots of different things. So it's not as easy as just remove them from that environment or come on, like, you know what's right or wrong. It's literally they've grown up like you were growing up, put with breakfast on the table, and dad went to work and mum helped clean the house, and all those things happened. On the flip side for them, there's drugs, there's guns, there's violence, there's just it's just the normal. So for them, the normal situation is that to catch up with family and to see family, a lot are unfortunately incarcerated.
How do you take on? You said your leadership role up there. What do you guys have in place, and what, I guess, not burden, but do you hold yourself accountable to make sure people like Ditto are enjoying their process? Like what do you have in place to making sure that the staff are getting as much out of it? Because I know Ditto's had an enjoyable experience, but what has sort of been...
So I've been working with Dicko a fair bit in regards to things, and we obviously try to offer as much support as we can to the staff. We offer a lot of wellbeing based programs for the staff and time for the staff to be able to access some time on a Thursday for some yoga or tennis or gym and training and their own outlet, but also just a lot of the conversations that just happen around the place that can help just debrief and de-escalate different things. We do performance development plans where we help, and I was just working with James today actually on a little bit to do with his direction he wants to go and goals he's got for his time up there and what he wants to get out of it. And we work really seriously with them in regards to how you want to develop professionally. And, there's high standards on what's expected of staff that are working there. And, so it's really cool to be able to, be trusted to come in to do more of that side of things as well and have that impact, not just on the students, but the staff as a whole as well. It's a really important thing that we take seriously in our government job there, and then obviously with the business too. We're working with a lot of people in corporate and government sectors and teams and things like that, the whole mindset and wellbeing space can sometimes be a little bit scary or cloudy or confusing. To help clear that up and make it really super simple, because often if things are too complicated, when it's crazy and chaos like life can be, it can be forgotten. What
have you learnt personally from your time so far up there? Probably you learn something every day, but
a huge amount.
Yeah.
For the sake of this conversation, as far as without going on too long, it's massively would be the importance of teamwork, the importance of people working together towards a common goal, being really open and honest, clear communication. Communication gets crossed in any way. It could be someone being stabbed or not being stabbed, and those types of things are just so important. So some things that maybe in a different environment wouldn't be major if that communication didn't happen. Channels of communication are just so important, whether it's face-to-face, email, all the different forms we can use. It's just so important that messages are passed clearly to ensure safety, and then the the positive development of whatever is happening. I think communication and the relationships and the way people work together is like just absolute top as far as things I've really understood the importance of them, previous to working in that setting. But I think that has definitely cemented that. And I think also your situational awareness becomes a lot more heightened up there, being able to, without maybe even before even a group is with you or just when they enter, just being able to gauge who's in a heightened state, who's possibly about to go off, who's, all of those things you become probably a lot better at being able to pick up on, which is pretty important again, because it can be the way that you then talk to them or the way that you can then de-escalate something can be literally the matter of something going really well or something going really south and violent really quickly. So I think you become pretty in tune and pretty quick at building the skills in analysing what is really happening and making a judgment under some pressure, because they'll put pressure on to try and make sure they're quite often used to hopefully things going their way, or I'm out, things get flipped up pretty quick. So
it's really fascinating, the first point you made on communication, and just thinking back to even organising this podcast, meeting you beforehand this morning. It's very, very, very well communicated, just by it's a simple text. And that is the difference between something on a very different scale, just organising a podcast. It's just complete clarity. And I've seen, I know in relationships, the intimate relationships, communication can be the make or break in those, and in life, communication on all fronts. And so I really, really agree with that. I mean, you've learnt it up in a place where that's so heightened and more important, but it even plays out on every facet of life. And the second point of that awareness, again, that being heightened where you are, how has that played into your everyday life, having the heightened awareness?
I think it can be taken in a number of ways depending on who you are. So I don't walk out of there and think because you've got a pen or key sitting over there, that's going to be a dangerous item in this situation. But I'm really aware of, in certain situations, who's there and what's going on, that I definitely wouldn't have thought of previously to being in that. I think definitely being able to take one hat off and put another hat on is just really important in life in general. And I think I've probably got a lot better at being able to do that as time's gone on with life getting busier.
Take us through, when did Teams Challenge Australia kick off?
Teams Challenge Australia is probably we'd probably be about 5 years now. So we were with our training and with sport originally, and then our training as far as adventure-based things we were doing within the government job with the juvenile justice. We were sort of getting a lot of teams and coaches from sporting things sort of saying, hey, can we take the team out doing abseiling or rock climbing or do a team-based thing? And the business just kind of grew from there, as far as it wasn't a really big planned action. It just basically went from, we really need to get some insurance and we need to get a business name to make sure that when we take these groups, it's all, and it literally just kind of snowballed from there. And even still now, we don't, other than our social media, we haven't spent $1 on marketing. We don't market it. It just, one group leads to another. And that's how we want it, because we want it to be personal. When people inquire on the website, we ring them, one of us rings them straight away, and they are often like, oh, hello, I didn't kind of expect you to call. I just put an inquiry on the website. But that's how we really like it, to be personal relation touch like that. And it's now all about balancing it to ensure that we can keep it at that really high standard. And, as much as we absolutely love what we do for work, it's incredibly important to to not be working 24/7 and have that time for, as I said, 3 little ones and amazing wife who is very understanding of all these different things as well. So
absolutely. What obviously each client's very different, whether you're working with a rugby team, or I saw the other day you're working with a young up and coming surfer, or up in the juvie or the DMR trainer. You obviously got to take it easy on them. They're pretty, but obviously the board's very different, and you're working with a whole range of clientele. But what's generally your intention when working with a group of people?
I think obviously just build a relationship and trust as quick as possible, and then make whatever program we're running with them be very relevant to them. So if we're working with personal trainers and DMR, or if we're working with, it will obviously make reference and links to what you would be doing in that setting. If we're working with a Russian stunt woman that we've worked with in the water, who's, got a role as in a film that involved her getting taken under the water, eaten by a crocodile, and she had some reservations about the water and wanted to build more skills up in that area, relating everything we're doing to that area of someone's life, so that it is really clear. And a lot of the different programs and things we do to do with teamwork and to do with breath work relate across the board. That's why we have been fortunate enough to work with such an array of people, is because the idea of relationships and teamwork performing at its best, and the idea of your breathing and how that then affects how you perform, whether you are a business owner or a elite athlete or a juvenile detention centre, it crosses over all of those. If you're surrounded by good people and are able to focus on your breathing and be able to be as clear and make the best decision you can in that moment, then you're going to be ahead, whatever it is you're doing. So yeah.
And it made sense. I remember we jumped on the phone before we went out abseiling with the crew, and you got a gauge of where the business was at the moment, where the group was at. We just had some new trainers come on board, so the idea was to be able to build that relationship up between each other. It wasn't just a standard program.
This is the program. It's never like that.
It's like, okay, the abseiling might be doing, but what are the little key ingredients that we chuck in there to be able to build it around where the situation's at?
And often whatever program or whatever environment we utilise for the program, it's generally the vehicle to get people to connect more. It's generally the vehicle to take people out of their comfort zone and get the team around that. It's a vehicle to make people feel vulnerable, and how do they deal with it. It's the vehicle to make people have to focus on their breathing. Otherwise, they won't be able to perform in that challenge or whatever it is. So often the environment we use and the challenge we use is a magnified little tool for people to be able to then reflect and look at, how does this link to, so some people, when they inquire about our breath, mind, body conditioning program, say, do I have to do the water component? And no one has to, but they'll say, but I'm a shooter, or I'm a banker, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. And they don't need to do the water component. The idea of doing the water component is to utilize the land-based breathing techniques we've shown in a chaotic situation, in an environment that they're not used to, and take them out of their comfort zone. Because generally when they get into stress during the day, it's in a chaotic situation. You're not generally sitting in yoga or meditation stressed. It's when someone's cut you off in the car and you're running late for a meeting and there's all this high stress. How can you then utilize the breathing techniques when you're in a high stress situation? And that's what the water can do really quickly for people. Even for, we've been fortunate with Micro, Glenn Hall's surf, all his WSL guys when they've come, even working with surfers at a really high level, they've still got a gauge of what's going on and when they're in the surf and on the waves, when they're then it's taken out of their hands and put into another situation, they've still got to really focus and think about what's best for them to be able to perform best in that, and then that, and then that.
Yeah. Well, it's true, because they go from surfing the wave to then the judges, so they got to be able to put themselves in a calm state to focus on next wave.
Totally different when you got 20 minutes to get 2 of your highest scoring waves, and you got a beach full of people, and the waves aren't always the best, and the conditions aren't always favourable, and there's so many variations in the surfing world. Can you give us a brief rundown on, 1, the importance of the breath, and 2, how to master it? What's the best way to learn to begin to master the breath?
So obviously the importance is that if we don't breathe, we die. So we need to breathe to live, and we can just breathe to just get by. I get that. There'll be some people that'll go, breath, we're doing breath training. I know how to breathe. And you can breathe to survive, but often we are breathing into the top section of our lungs, not the most ideal place to breathe. And then there's not much other thought that goes into how your breath can affect how you perform. By having a little bit more knowledge, and then having some basic breathing techniques and skills to be able to implement into your daily routine or your situations that escalate, it can just put you in a place to be able to be clearer, more energetic, make better decisions under that pressure. And it's literally as simple as focusing on some breathing techniques, like 3 slow controlled, we call them blue breaths, but 3 slow controlled breaths takes your nervous system from being in could be in a heightened state, to being in where you're putting your nervous system at rest and digest and recover. That's 3 slow controlled breaths. 6 slow controlled breaths, there's been a lot of research and studies into blood pressure starting to drop. So it doesn't need 90 minutes on a cliff top with the rain sounds in your ears. It can be small snippets throughout your day that is really vital for all the little layers of stress. Someone cuts you off in the car, you're running late for the meeting, you just spilt your coffee. There's all these little layers that can create stress, and over time, all those little moments become your day, become your week, become your life really quickly. So if you're able to, when we're working with a lot of people in regards to their breath, talk about look for little opportunities throughout your day as challenges. And when that person does cut you off in the car, the only person that's going to be affected by that is you, if you hold that anger. And we all get pissed off at things, and we're all human beings. But if you can look for little challenges to go, here's an opportunity for me to practice those slow controlled breaths, because that stress that comes on, that fight or flight, is a physical response. Your palms tighten, you get sweat, your heart rate jacks, your blood pressure goes up, all of these, your adrenals will release. All of these things are physical responses to that car cutting you off. How do you counteract a physical stress response? You slow controlled breathing, your heart rate goes down, your blood pressure starts to drop. Doesn't mean straight away your mind gets calm, but all of these physical responses start to reverse, and what happens? You calm down and you go, I'm glad I didn't actually drive up the back of that ute and give him a mouthful.
Yeah.
How do you put this into, do you do this before sleep? Like, how do you optimize your sleep through your breath? What's your nightly, run us through your morning routine and your night routine.
Yeah. So for me, the routine in the morning is to focus on 3 things if possible. Focus on getting in some cold water, focus on the breath, and focus on being grateful for something. We're all tired in the morning, and we've had big days and nights. And as I said, 3 kids under the age of 5. Some nights is more adventurous than I'd like at our house. So by focusing on, and when you're coming out of that deep sleep, you're in a really good space to be able to set the tone for the day really well. And just can be a simple thing as you've opened up and you're seeing the sunrise, it's a beautiful blue day, you can hear amazing birds, whatever it is, something small, does not need to be anything big, but focusing on something that you're grateful for, shocking your system with some cold water, and focusing only for, it doesn't need to be long, but for a very small snippet, focusing on some breathing. Those 3 things collectively can take 3 minutes, the whole lot. So it's not a big outlay of time, but it's a really big bang for your buck. So for me, it's those 3. It's like a given. No matter what, if if I've, worked a 15-hour day, been up half the night with the kids, and I've only had 3 hours sleep, it's more important that I do those. It's more important that I don't snooze that alarm and skip that. It's more important that I make sure those things happen.
100%. What's the temperature of the ice bath?
Cold, very cold. It's very thick on the ice around the sides, depending on the timer, how long we put it on for. But I mean, it goes between, it's obviously 0 on the edges where it's freezing into a block, but then it'll go around, half degree up to sort of 1.5, 2 degrees.
And this is what time do you wake up?
So it just depends. If I've got groups, if I'm, a sleep in for me 6 o'clock. So, that would, and it all varies. And I think that's something I've got a lot better at too, with everything I've got going on and the kids, is being okay with some mornings, like in the ideal world before kids and things, I might train for an hour and surf for half an hour and then be totally ready and set to go with a group, or set to go to work, or with whatever's going on. Now, not always getting that luxury for that amount of time for myself right at that point of the day with everything else. The ice bath has become definitely a space for me, a real sacred little sanctuary that I can, when I go into that water that's that cold, I can only zone in and focus on breathing and staying really strong in my mindset. Otherwise you end up out. You can't stay in there. So it's a really short, sharp way to put your system and your mindset into a really cool space really quickly.
Massive believer on morning routine. Yeah. I can't like Taylor, my girlfriend, she'll wake up a similar time, but it's almost like my dream house would have my own morning routine room, which is a room for me. Like, you just so I feel like it's such a moment to be so in touch with yourself. And that's not saying that I'm rude, that I don't want to spend time with my girlfriend, but at 4:30 in the morning, it's just that time for you to really set yourself up for a good day.
Sure. And I think early, some people really enjoy getting up early. I'm pretty good early. And I think sometimes when you're working with a lot of people all the time, I'm sure you can relate to this, is by getting up early and just having those small, simple moments on your own before you feel like a lot of people are up. In nature is the other thing. If I can get in for a quick swim or quick surf, or just check the surf even, just those real small moments in nature, I think, to kick off your day before you belt straight into everything that's going on. I think that's, they're priceless.
What's ahead for you, whether it be Teams Challenge Australia, whether it be your position up at the Juvie, whether it be the fatherhood? Where do you see moving forward?
All of those 3 areas, and those 3 areas are my absolute priority. My kids, daughter's just started school, son's just turned 4, 2-year-old daughter who's just loving dad time a lot more. So massively trying to put some focus on spending quality time with them. A dad that works, like many dads, the time you've got with them is so precious at that age. So putting some really quality time into that. We do a GFK. I haven't told many people this one, but we do a thing called GFK each night with our kids, a grateful, a funny, and a kind, where we'll have a chat at dinner or after dinner, a bath, bedtime, whatever it is, because there can be so much going on, but at least we guarantee, my wife and I started it with each other, and then we've sort of brought it in with the kids, and our kids will remind us of it now, which is cool. Just getting that idea of what they've been grateful for throughout their day. What was a funny story and what's something kind you did today? I think those 3 things are a really nice post, like you talked about, morning routine. For us, they're a really nice tail end of the day thing we do with the kids. That works really well. GFK, grateful, funny, and kind.
I'm going to start that.
Yeah. It's a very good way of getting great information instead of just going, "How was your day at school?" "Yeah, it was all right." Or "How was your day at work?" "It was all right." Like, it's a cool way of going, what was you really grateful for today? What was something funny? Give me a funny story that happened to you today. And what was something you did that was kind today? So my daughter will sometimes say, my eldest daughter will say, "Make sure you do something kind today, Daddy." That's cool. For her saying that, it's like, okay, I've got to make sure I buy made a coffee or whatever it is.
Yeah, just those random acts of kindness can go
so that's
a long way.
major focus for me, is to make sure I'm there and really present, which I feel like that's it's vitally important, no doubt. And then obviously with that, me working is a must to be able to, live the lifestyle we want to live in regards to everything. So yeah, the business and my work with New South Wales Department of Education, they're both very much, massive priorities as far as, and I have very, very high standards on myself and my wife and brother and staff that we'll put on with the business in regards to performing at our absolute best for who we're with and where we're at with this. And then the same with our work within juvenile justice. It's not like getting confused of where you're at. There's so many elements that kind of combine with both those jobs, but being really clear and know where you are and what you're doing in that time is vital. So yeah, excited for both of those to keep rolling along.
Yeah. What's been the key to your relationship with your wife?
I think being really good friends. Like we're really literally just great friends. Very attracted to each other, obviously, but we do have a lot of good laughs. We're very compatible. We're very fortunate that we're very compatible. So not saying we don't have, disagree on some things every now and then, but we're very, very in tune with and also very understanding of each other's needs. Like my wife's amazing mum, incredible mum, very attached to our beautiful children. And I understand that and wouldn't try to rip her away from that. I want her to spend as much time with the kids as she wants. And she also understands then my needs as far as when I'm present with the kids, I'm present. And then she understands that I've got to go away for this group or that group or for this or for that or my own training. So having that understanding of each other and compatibility. And I honestly do think too, the GFKs that we've brought in, well, that's been over the last 5 years or so, has been really positive for our, we've been together since we're 18. So having those funny little stories and different things that go on throughout your day, rather than just, how was your day? Oh, you've got to pay the Vodafone bill. You've got to do this. Can you get the milk and nappies? It's like, so it's not just all of that.
Yeah.
It gets you guys in touch with each other as well, where you're heading and what your passions are too.
Sure.
I'm really interested to know, is Team Challenge Australia always something that you just want to not keep small, but where's that line in the sand where it's like, this is taking myself too far and I'm taking away from the relationship with yourself, with your wife, with your kids?
Yeah. It's always a balance. That is just always a balance. With business, it can really get away on you quickly as far as how fast things can be moving and how much time needs to be. So it's really about balancing those two. Good people around me with my wife, my brother, and some of the really cool guys that we employ to run programs with us. We're very, very good at keeping tabs on each other in that regards, and knowing when to push, when not, when we got to block out a day, block out a weekend. We're pretty aware and reasonably on top of that stuff. But as I said, having the right people around you as well to make sure you're on top of that stuff's so important. But with the business, we want to make sure that it does stay personal. We've had a number of different corporate people say, you need to take this and really commercialise it. You could have a Team Challenge Australia set up at the Gold Coast, Perth, here, there, which is great. I appreciate it's humbling that they'll talk like that. But at this stage where we're at, we want to keep it definitely with that more personal touch and where we are able to balance what we do. Because as I said, have a huge passion and love my government job as well as my business. So very, very fortunate that I get to do two jobs that are similar and so different, but they're two things that I'm very passionate about and love and get a lot out of, get a huge amount of self-satisfaction out of both of them. So I don't want to see one of them take over more or other one drop away. It's really about the balance, but yeah.
And bitter's not all, that's one of the biggest pieces of advice my dad gave me, was bitter's not always better, but I actually learnt that going through the hard times. You know, actually coming out, and it's true, like bitter isn't always better. Like bitter is a lot more stress, and that's not needless to say you can't be ambitious and get more. That's not that, but it's like you don't have to have the $1 million turnover. You don't have to have, you know, the business class seats. You don't have to, that's not all. That's all great byproducts and great things to have, but it's about coming back to really deep why you started in the first place.
With everything that you've learnt, and there's so much that I would love to still dive into, but with everything you've learnt between all the areas of your life, if you had all of that and you went back to your 21-year-old self, or the self that was probably, whether there was a time when you were confused on where you were heading, or a time you said when you had that injury it was just a snap moment, but even during that time of being in the footy and wondering when to stop or when to make that transition, a confusing time in your life, you know all you know now, what advice would you give to that self?
Trust your gut feeling. I'm really big on that. I think people know down deep what's the next move, what's the right move, and I think a lot of people try and listen to so many other sources, but really trusting that gut feeling I think is really, really important. And just finding what you love, really finding what you love, and if you can, which we're fortunate enough to have done, find what you love doing and share that with people that want to learn more about it, that want to be involved in it, and if you're lucky enough for that to be able to be your means to keep the roof over your head, and you know be able to take your family on holiday and these things, then I consider myself very, very lucky and grateful and fortunate for that. There's probably one moment in my life that I haven't spoken to him enough about it. My dad, when I was 18 and I was supposed to go down to see the uni that I was going to be going to and look at doing some things with rugby and this scholarship. The surf was really good this day and I surfed all morning, and being the 18-year-old self that I was, I got out of the surf, ran home, said to Dad, oh, you know what, this whole rugby Sydney uni thing, I don't think it's for me. I can literally remember saying that, thinking that, because the surf was pumping. And I thought, I'll just put that off for today and keep surfing. And my dad showed me some really good, tough love and said, put your board down, get in the car. And now being a dad, I'm just so grateful that he did that, because he showed me a little bit of tough love that day that, no, you're not going back out surfing. This is something you wanted. This is something, and I'm so glad and so grateful that he did that, because, yeah, that I guess first move to go to Sydney and do my PDHPE degree, met my wife, and sort of, yeah, I think was a major start for where I've ended up. And yeah, Dad's and Mum, my brothers and I are so fortunate. Our Mum and Dad have just been so supportive and such amazing role models in our life. So very fortunate in that regard.
Any final words?
No, we'll have to get Shaun on the podcast too.
Shaun, we didn't dive into that, which I would have loved to. What role quickly has he played in your life?
Massive. We've, brothers 3 years apart, and over time, just as it's gone on, become our older brother. We've got an older brother too, who's in the Air Force, and he's sort of been travelling around from a young age in the Air Force. So love him just as much, obviously, but have ended up with a very, very tight bond with Shawnee, and grew up sharing a room together, and my side of the room was very messy. His side was very neat, and he swept all the stuff over and drew the line down with the duct tape. And, you know, we've got many very, very fond memories growing up, but we've definitely become really, really credible mates as we've become older. And I trust the guy with everything and anything, and respect everything he stands for and how he operates. So fortunate to have him in our corner with everything we do in life, with the kids and the business and all of that. So no, it's been very, very nice to have him. So he
Great contact for date night when you need the kids to be minded.
Just palm them off to the uncle. Luke, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. You shared so much value and insight, and there's plenty more to touch on, I know. But until that time comes, we'll leave it at that.
Thanks for having me, guys. Absolutely stoked and pumped with what you guys are doing. You guys are doing some great stuff, so I look forward to seeing what you guys are doing. What comes of everything you guys are up to. It's exciting space, and there's a lot of people that are going to benefit from you guys putting a lot of effort into this. So thanks for doing what you're doing too.